Our expert says Kansas State is starting to find the Big 12 championship form we thought they'd have. Is Baylor getting them at the wrong time?
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Mazda and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and the Rogue Media Network. Speaking of that, Pete Sousa, also of the Rogue Media Network, ESPN Inside the 12. He joins because it's a Friday, and he's got the Kansas State Baylor game this weekend. So we're going to talk about the Wildcats, how they're starting to find that form again, and what if Bryson Washington can't play? How bad of news would that be for the Baylor Bears? And then we'll take a look around the Big 12. Are the Cincinnati Bearcats for real? Why they're going to prove that this weekend. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Pete.
Hey.
Some people's favorite day of the week.
Placide Jungo Sungo. Let's go.
Okay.
Do you know who he is?
I'm going to learn soon, I'm sure.
He's a Baylor strong safety.
Yeah, you're going to learn this Saturday.
But you got it. If you're me, like, I know this Baylor team really well. I'm not familiar with him, but his name's on the depth chart, and he's got a couple tackles. So
well, you
that could be an issue if I don't have it locked in.
On the tail end of one of our many phone calls that we have throughout the week, on the tail end, you just dropped a random name. I don't even remember if it was for Kansas State or for Oklahoma State. And you just go, it's from Brockton, Massachusetts. Guy's name.
Yeah, no.
I was like, oh, no, I don't know.
No. He's good. Let me tell you real quick.
Kansas State, okay.
Malcolm Alcorn Crowder. Okay,
went to Whitman-Hanson High School. Damn.
Yeah.
That should have been the trivia question for today. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Kansas State Wildcats. Pete, you know this team inside and out at this point. It's been up and down, mostly down, it's felt like, up in the Little Apple. You know, this was a team that came in with a real claim to be the best team in the conference going into the year and a claim to have a top 2 quarterback in the conference, maybe top 1 if you're asking the people up there. And it just did not get off on the right foot, right? You lose that Iowa State game. You barely squeak by North Dakota. And then Army comes into town, and it's tough to beat the U.S. Army, except on the athletic field. And Kansas State did lose to Army on the athletic field. But you're saying they are putting it together.
I mean, it's not like, are they? It's like they have. And they have because Dylan Edwards is back. And he was back last week, and he had 166 rushing yards. And I called a UCF game earlier this year. And their defense is super athletic. They are. And it's not like they ran roughshod over Samford, right? Like, Kansas State beat down a UCF team that was 3-0. Now it's like, how good is their 3-0? But they beat them up, and they have the explosive plays on offense that they've been looking for all year long and have not had. And one thing that we could see on Saturday, if Baylor has really bad luck, you'll see Avery Johnson, obviously. You definitely will see Dylan Edwards. And if Jace Brown plays, right? Jace Brown has played – he played one game last week, one snap, I'm sorry. Yep. And then he didn't play at all. And my point is they have not had these 3 dudes healthy in one game all season long, like 100%. And, like, with Dylan Edwards, like, not only is he back, but he's up to, like, 100%. And he is, like, ready to go. And he makes that – you know, when you have a running back who has that kind of speed, a blocking situation that will get you 2 yards might get you 75. Like he showed you that last week. So, and that's according to some of the Kansas State coaches. That's not just me. Like literally, like they have one guy who's up here and they got a bunch of other guys down here running the football. And if Edwards is healthy, that's a big issue for Baylor, which he is healthy. So it's an issue.
Yeah. And look, stopping the run has been an issue for both of these teams, actually. Are we going to see another one of these, we'll call it a classic Big 12 kind of game, but those wide open, high scoring with only 24 pass attempts kind of games?
We might, because Kansas State is going to be without some of their premier wide receivers. So they're going to play more tight end sets. So to your point, the ball for Kansas State, they're not going to be throwing it all over the yard.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the Baylor's played run defense this year, like who's to say they still won't, you
don't have to throw it all over the yard.
Their home runs could come
yeah.
through Dylan Edwards running the football. And so, and they had some tricks up their sleeve last week. Like Matt Wells, they had a diamond formation where they had, let me get this dude's name right, Blake Barnett, right? He's their backup quarterback. You're familiar with him.
Yes.
So they put Barnett on the field next to Avery Johnson, and they gave Barnett the ball every time to run. And he's just like running over dudes like a psycho, and their team is getting like super excited and juiced up off of him, like running with violence, much like Bryson Washington does for Baylor. And it was a whole nother change of pace for this team that needed that infusion, right? And one more thing about Kansas State that, it's tough for Baylor catching them at this point. I know if you talked to a person from Iowa State and a person from Kansas State about that trip to Ireland to start the season, you probably get two different answers as to how you were coming back. Yeah. Kansas State, they would tell you like, that really screwed us up. I mean, it was evident. And, you barely beat an FBS team. You lose to Army. And then you really should have beaten Arizona. You could have. But again, you were without guys. And, now everybody's back. Everybody's rested. And I shouldn't say everybody's back. There's still some injuries there for Kansas State. But their bye week apparently was like amazing. And they approached it the perfect way. And we saw the results, against UCF. The whole first bye week, they didn't even talk about an opponent. They literally just went like full contact, inside run, like let's go, and the guys on the team loved it. And so they really used that as a kind of a springboard, and they really came together last week, apparently.
We know how dangerous a team can be coming off a bye week. Baylor 2-4 last year and off a bye, all of a sudden rips that off. But Bears are still favored in this one. They're at home, which for a lot of teams means extra points. I don't know about Baylor at this point, but that kind of offense. We talked to Christian Rao yesterday on the crossover. He does Locked On Kansas State.
Yeah, I listened to him this week. He was talking about doing a crossover with you. I should have texted him and say no.
Christian's one of the best. I appreciate your support there. I really appreciate that. And he was talking about how just as much as Avery Johnson can crush Baylor just with the style of play, Sawyer Robertson can do that to Kansas State, and they're still trying to get some guys back on the defensive side too. So with all that said, I always bring you on, Pete, to see how Baylor's going to win this game. How's Baylor going to win this game?
Well, there'll be more. Bryson Washington is questionable, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a couple minutes.
Yeah. So they're good, but I bring that up because that's a recipe for them. One thing that Baylor has taken crap for this year, if there's one thing offensively, it's like not running the ball yet enough. But when you look at their numbers, Bryson Washington, he's 6th in the country in carries. Yeah. 10th in the country in yards.
It's still working.
Yeah. I mean, and there is explosiveness from Baylor, like in the passing game, that they can really take advantage of. Oh, that's a weakness of Kansas State's. Here's the little inside football for you, right? Inside baseball, inside football.
I like that. I like the adjustment.
Kansas State, last year they played a 3-3-5. And so they changed it to a 4-man front this year to sort of better suit some of their personnel up front. Like they wanted to get more of these defensive linemen on the field. But in doing so, they're asking guys on the back end to do a little more, and teams have taken advantage of that this year. So they're like kind of vulnerable up front. So if Baylor's going to win the game, I think the most important thing is protecting Sawyer Robertson, and because Kansas State wants to attack him and throw him off his rhythm. Like I would expect him to take some contact early, but also at the same time have opportunities to beat a blitz, and to get in that rhythm that I think anybody in anything you're doing early in life, getting into a rhythm in the early stages of it is really important. And so him throwing the football with success is huge for them early.
And we've seen that that's clearly the book, right? Of you got to hit him, you got to pressure him. He's a different quarterback when he's being pressured. It was kind of like Brady. Brady was like that forever, right? If you get to him, it's a different quarterback. He's still pretty good. He's still pretty good with that pressure coming. But this could be a really interesting quarterback matchup for two very, very different reasons. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about Bryson Washington and what this injury could mean for Baylor, not just this week, but going forward. We're doing it next on Locked On Baylor. Today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is, I'm going to switch it up a little bit, that Caden Knighton 45-yard run. I just think of that true freshman who's getting a chance to play. He's going back to his home state where he was the best running back in that state, still decided to come to the much better state of Texas and play for Baylor and showed out right away. So we'll leave the fumble aside. It's the 45-yard run for Caden Knighton. Totally electric. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. And who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love a little streak on DoorDash? It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving money every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most. For the Bears this week, I'm going to give it to Josh Cameron again, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. He comes off one of the toughest games of his career, 2 fumbles the week before against Arizona State. They're huge turning points in the game. And all he does is come back this week and be the leading receiver in it for 6 catches for 98 yards. He came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching this team, you know that performance wasn't a fluke. He is on a streak. And just like Josh Cameron delivered for the Bears, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Back to it on Locked On Baylor. Pete Sousa of ESPN, the Pete Sousa Show, Inside the 12. He's wearing really all the hats today because you're on ESPN Plus calling the game, Baylor and Kansas State tomorrow. But you're also so inside the 12. You talked with Bryce Petty this week on Rogue Media Network, man. Like, you have got this covered from pillar to post.
I'm pumped. When I got this game assignment, I was like, finally. Like, this is something where it's not – I'm very grateful. It's in my backyard, basically. I know Baylor. Yeah. I know Kansas State. It's a meaningful game, so it won't be, like, super wishy-washy with, like, you know, all kinds of guys playing.
Right.
It's cool.
Yes. That's got to take a toll real quick. That's got to take a toll in some of those early games where you know you're getting third stringers in there.
Any play-by-play guy will tell you, and yourself included, whether you're doing China Spring, really, or whether you're doing, like, anybody else, like, it's that first game of the season. You don't know what is what. You don't have any tape on the team. You don't know who's going to do what. So to do a meaningful game in October in the Big 12 is cool for me. I do awesome. Basketball. I'll do a lot of those kind of games, but not in college football. So I'm pumped.
Yeah. Big weekend for Pete Sousa. Big weekend for the Baylor Bears. But could they be without one of their big dogs? Bryson Washington, questionable. Left that game early against Oklahoma State on Monday. Dave Aranda said, he's fine. He's going through practice just fine. He's going through everything today. If Bryson Washington, let's start micro and go macro. If Bryson Washington is not on the field for the Baylor Bears this weekend, and we already talked about how Baylor has still been good running the ball, even though it doesn't look as good as last year. They're still been pretty efficient. If Bryson Washington isn't out there on Saturday, how does that change the complexion of the game?
Oh, big time. I mean, now you're looking at I 2 really good freshmen. I mean, 4 freshmen. Caden Knighton and Michael Turner have been like, you can put those guys in the game and give them the ball. And by the way, you sort of have your thunder and lightning, right? Like, Knighton to the outside, Turner up the middle. Like, okay, like.
Even more so than Washington and Pendergrass. I'm not saying that he's better. Like, that's clearly the best running combo. But you talk about a true thunder and lightning. This is more like it, right? Like, Caden Knighton's the sprinter. He's the track guy. And Bryson Washington will hit anything that moves.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. I think that with Bryson out, though, I think Baylor – you know, I think we'll find out, honestly, how important Bryson is, because I want to say that Baylor will go ahead and throw the ball all over the yard and have great success doing that, and then change pace up with Caden Knighton or Michael Turner. And their passing, I think, has been that good this season. I think that sometimes we take it for granted as people who see Baylor all the time. It's one of the best offenses in the country. It truly is.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
Because one of the things that's undeniable about Baylor, and really why they should have won that Auburn game, was because Baylor's very big up front on offense. Like, so they can jump in the trenches with just about anybody. And I think that's something that worries the Kansas State coaches, just how big Baylor is up front. So I think that makes the running game a little bit more functional, even if Bryson Washington is out. Or should I say, it makes it functional if Bryson's out. Obviously, it's way more functional if he's playing. Yeah. But I think it really will hurt Baylor. I think he's going to play, by the way. I believe in what we heard from Aranda earlier this week in the press conference. Like, that was a great Dave line where he was like, you know, I stopped them during stretch. I went over to him. He was stretching. He said, Coach, they can't get me. They can't get me. And I said to him, they're trying, man. They're trying.
That wasn't all time. That was like a Clint Eastwood Dave Aranda line.
Dave Aranda. You guys
spaghetti Western Dave Aranda.
He is, by the way, I said this today or this week on my show, and I blame some of the Waco media for this, myself included, I guess. But like, dude, like we don't like appreciate this guy or ask him the right questions, because anytime he is liable to become a quote machine.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. Okay, he doesn't scream and yell and pound his chest, but like Dave Aranda's the man. He's a great coach to cover. I'm sorry the fans get upset that he's not like full throat all the time or he's monotone.
Yeah.
But like, I'll take this guy any day of the week. I love him.
Well, I think a lot of the angst that I get from him, this is just me personally, not speaking for the fan base here, is like, I do love kind of the personality of Dave Aranda. As I've said so many times on the show, like, I don't care if he doesn't scream, but more like at his personality. Like, I wanted that to work. And if he he could be Bill Parcells, you know, who was like one of the great quote machines in the history of sports. Like, Dave Aranda could be that. I just think he chooses not to, you know? It's like everyone used to say.
I liked here, like, I think he may have been a little shaken up, whether he would never tell us, but after the Wolf of Wall Street stuff earlier this year, it's kind of like, yeah. I'm sure the folks at Baylor, like I would have done when I was a PR guy, like, Coach, you're not, let's not wade into those waters. It's fun. Yeah. And I do appreciate, by the way, both the national media and Baylor's media. Everybody knows Dave Aranda and knows, like, he would never say anything derogatory like that. Yeah. So think about it. We're in a different time, by the way. It could have been a little different 5 years ago, but like people were like, hey, like, it's Dave, whatever, let's keep it moving. So I appreciated people's response to that. But to answer your question at the end, to put a bow on it, without Bryson Washington, this offense is there are more questions than answers, as we used to say in the news business, running the football. So that could affect them big time, but I think he's going to play.
And I do want to look at it macro here for a second, because I think he's leaning towards playing right now.
Totally random, by the way. How about this?
It's a nice cup, but I don't want the people at ESPN to see that. I want you to keep doing this game. Okay. But looking at Bryson Washington, because I think he'll probably play too. But this is a guy who missed some time at the beginning of the year last year. He obviously got the concussion in the bowl game, and he takes a lot of hits. Like, this is a guy who could be hurt, you know, often because of just how physically he plays, and that's one of the reasons why we love him. But looking at that, you know, you said it earlier, you know, that Baylor probably can just pass on everybody. And they've shown that this year, right? Like, SMU, at least a good coach, looks like still a solid team. They passed on them all day. Like, they just didn't really establish the run in the second half at all. And they kept in that Auburn game without running. But you look at the rest of their schedule, they got TCU next week. They've still got Utah on the schedule. They've still got Houston on the schedule, some of the best defenses in the Big 12. So if there was a Bryson Washington injury down the line, knock on wood, God forbid, is there a way they could keep a running attack with guys like Turner or Caden Knighton, or do you think they can still be efficient?
I don't know, because I like Caden Knighton and his flair and kind of like what he's all about. But sometimes I look at him out there, I'm like, dude, this is not a Division I running back. Now, I know I'm wrong.
Not yet.
I know I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong, by the way. But sometimes I see him out there, especially when he has to like pass block or something. I'm like, boy, this he's over his skis, right? So to ask him to be like a major contributor is asking a lot. And then you got another freshman, Michael Turner, who's awesome because he's 6'2", 220, and he likes to run violent, right? Dave said this week, like, I saw him out there. Sometimes he looks like Bryson. But I don't know. It'll be really interesting, dude. If Bryson Washington can't play, I think it just punctuates the Dawson Prendergast deal. And then we know how much that has really – if Dawson Prendergast was healthy, I think you could subtract one of the losses from I easily, I think.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't even – it's obviously more likely Arizona State than the Auburn one, but it honestly could have been either. Because that Auburn game, you're facing a really good defense, and it changes the complexion when you don't try to run after the first quarter, when you don't try to run at all. When you got Dawson Pendergrass out there and Bryson Washington, that's a different story. But now we're getting into the weeds. I want to talk about the Big 12 schedule this week because there's a fascinating game early on Saturday, actually the same time slot as Baylor, that could really throw a wrench into the Big 12 title race. Let's talk about it next and who you should be rooting for next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Peloton, where all my days start, honestly. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Thread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with all your favorite instructors. Remember how I said I started with the Peloton every day, not even always on the Peloton, because there's so much you can do with it. This is training reimagined. It's built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan and stay motivated and reach peak performances. The swivel screen is the game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without ever missing a beat, without ever taking a breath. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's ONE Peloton.com. I went to the wrong tab. Here we go. We'll find it. We will be here. Sorry to Pete. Back to Locked On Baylor. I just
by the way, one quick
on the wrong thing.
Availability question. Is Carl Williams, is he out?
He was also on, hold on, let me bring it back up here. I believe he was on doubtful. It didn't sound great earlier this week.
The reason I ask is because Aranda called him out earlier this week.
Doubtful, yep. He and Egbedian are doubtful. Fugar and Caleb Burns both questionable.
Williams this week, and Dave was basically like saying, from what I understood, the guy can't. Right now, he hasn't learned to play hurt, and that's a big part of football. Like that's what I understood. So, and they need
hurt, not injured, kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead.
Well, you're inside the 12. Let's look around the Big 12 because Baylor, can you believe it, still in the Big 12 race. 1-1 in Big 12 play.
Dude.
I know. Everyone still is. Everyone still is.
Yeah,
except Oklahoma State. But yeah, like Baylor's still there. I mean, they got the same amount of wins in this conference as TCU does, and everyone's really loving TCU so far, and they've been impressive. But the game that is really fascinating to me, Pete, and I'm going to have to watch it on demand later. Do people still DVR? Is that still what you call it? Because it's the same time as the Baylor game. But how about this? 11 a.m. Central Time. Number 14, Iowa State, travels up to the other Queen City, one of like 10 Queen Cities in this country, to face Scott Satterfield's fighting Cincinnati Bearcats. Cincinnati just upset Kansas last week at the booth. Their offense looks impressive. Brendan Sorsby looks impressive. Is this Cincinnati team for real, and do you give them a chance this weekend?
Yeah.
You really like Iowa State as well.
Oh, well, I give them a big chance because Iowa State's two starting cornerbacks are hurt, and they're going for the season. So, and if you're at all into, like, putting a couple shekels on this deal, like, when you look at the point spread and you're like, wait a minute, why is Cincinnati favored by 1.5? Well, that's why, right? The moment Matt Campbell announced that line moved. And look, those guys are usually pretty close. So I think it's a scary game for Iowa State. I really believe what's the most important position on the field? Quarterback. And Rocco Becht has like just this ability to make stuff happen when you would least expect it and when his back's up against the wall. So they're always going to be in it. I think it will be pretty tight because Cincinnati's offense is the top 20 offense. And Sorsby has really been finding a rhythm. So even if Iowa State loses this game, like, they're still like fine, it's a wacky game. I think these 11 a.m. starts on the road can go either way. Sometimes, like, if you think about it, like for Baylor, the 11 a.m. start, like Kansas State started at 11 a.m. last week, so maybe they're kind of in a routine, but now they're on the road. For Baylor, I think it does really behoove you to wake up out of your own bed and start things off.
Hope so. Your audio cut out there for a little bit, Pete. I can't hear you. I'm going to pause because I can't hear you.
So when you look at this game, Iowa State, like literally they have the most important position on their team, one of the best players in the conference in Rocco Beck. So I think they're always going to be in it, but it's pretty scary right now if you're Iowa State. Your cornerbacks are hurt.
Working through some technical difficulties here at the studio. We've worked through it. We've talked Cincinnati, Iowa State. By the way, Cincinnati, Reds are out. So this is the show in town. And now people are going to start paying attention to what these Bearcats are doing. How about this for an interesting one? UH against Tech. Two of the top teams in the conference right now, of course, Houston being the surprise of that bunch. Tech kind of living up to the preseason hype that they got. That is out east in Houston. There will still be plenty of Tech alums, plenty of Tech fans there. Is that one, Pete, where Houston can really, really send a statement to the rest of the league?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, even if they don't win, as long as they keep it close, that's another one where the number is 11.5, which is lofty.
That's real lofty, man. Oh.
Yeah. But and Houston's going to have an opportunity. Like, I believe that they got their kind of crappy game out of their system against Oregon State. They found a way to win. I think, like, Willie Fritz in his second year, like, I know this from doing a Houston game for the opener, is, like, amazing. Like, every single time, I'm like, we're seeing it again. Like, the guy's a good coach, man. He coaches his ass off. And I think he just took his time getting to the top. But that's a guy who I'm excited about, like, seeing what exactly he can do in the Big 12. And it kind of starts on Saturday night. The problem is I do think Texas Tech is just that good, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, even if Baron Morton, who cleared concussion protocol and is going to play, even if he has, like, a rough couple series, like, they'll take him out and they'll put Will Hammond in. Like, there's layers to, like, their whole team everywhere. They got dudes, man. And I think that Texas Tech's win against Utah, I think that's actually going to work out for Utah, because I think Utah, like last week, just beating the brakes off of West Virginia. I think Utah's pretty good, and I think that beating they took at the hands of Texas Tech just shows you how good Texas Tech is. So I think Texas Tech will win this game on Saturday night, but I think Houston's going to be right there, and I think it's going to be a really cool environment too. Like, I wish I could go to that game as well. They're going to be wearing all blue. It's going to be cool.
Like the Power Blues. I got the Love You Blue Houston.
Yes.
I do like that. I'm not a UH guy, not a Houston in general guy.
We just learned Brett Yormark. What game's he going to be at? Well, he's going to be at Baylor's game. Now, maybe he'll get to the Houston game at night, but he'll be there.
Wow. How about that? Big time. He heard that Pete Sousa was on the call. He knew that. He knew there was going to be some points in this one. And he heard that I was not going to be there. So he was like, yeah, I'm in. Those are the big, and honestly, Baylor and Kansas State slots in there right as one of those premier games as well this weekend, as Baylor has a couple of times so far this year, where we go over the other games of the Big 12 schedule. And then we're like, oh yeah, the other game that we've been talking about, the Baylor one is a pretty big one as well. Cause I think a lot of the conference is looking at that and saying, if Kansas State wins, then yes, this is coming together. And this is the team we were promised. And that Baylor's a pretender and that they're only good on offense, and that's just not going to get them anywhere. And if Baylor wins, it kind of does the opposite of like, maybe Baylor can stick around here. Maybe Baylor is in this race, because it does. We change a top 3, top 4 pretty much every week here in the Big 12. Pete, you want to do some trivia?
Dude, I would love to.
This was a really difficult one.
But Scotty, I don't get the answer. Right?
You can. I'll read the one from the last show, and you can guess on that one. Okay. But I'm going to warn you, you might embarrass yourself. It's tough. There's 2 answers. Scotty B got it right. So Sawyer Robertson has thrown 3+ touchdowns in 5 straight games, and he is 2 off the Big 12 record, which was set by 2 guys. Both played within the last 20 years. And I did mention that they were 2.
I know the answer, bro.
I mentioned they were 2 butt bowl quarterbacks.
2
Baylor and
butt
Texas.
bubbles?
Butt bowl, as you know, butt, B-U-T-T, Baylor and Texas Tech quarterbacks. Within the last 20 years, so not Cliff Kingsbury.
Well, I think it's
I'll give you that one.
Patrick Mahomes.
It's not.
And I think it's but you're telling me it can't be Kyler Murray. It's not Patrick either?
It's not Patrick, no.
And
it's not Kyler Murray, yes.
All right, who is it? I mean, tell me.
The Baylor quarterback is it would not have been my first or maybe even my second guess. It makes
Nick
sense.
Lawrence.
It's Seth Russell.
Okay.
Seth Russell is the Baylor one. And the Tech one is, I mean, arguably their best quarterback of all time. I mean, most will say Cliff and some will say Patrick Mahomes for what he did afterwards. But Graham Harrell is the Texas Tech quarterback that did that. I mean, he threw so many touchdowns. Here's the question for today that you can't answer, and it's a little long-winded, so I'm going to get poetic here. So I'm looking at Bill Snyder's coaching tree, and the most famous Baylor name on that list is Art Briles, and he's a couple of degrees of separation. So obviously he did not work for Bill Snyder. But there is a famous Baylor assistant coach from yesteryear who was an assistant for Bill Snyder. This guy, when he was at Baylor, served 6 seasons alongside Art Briles. So I want you to tell me who that is, who is the only one to be an assistant coach for Art Briles, as well as for Bill Snyder. First one to get it.
Oh, I know.
In the YouTube comment section.
I don't think I know.
Gets a shout out in the next episode, or you can tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. Okay, Pete, I usually ask for a prediction, but I'm not going to do that from you because you're a professional. You're an
I'm Darby Brown.
D1.
I don't give predictions. Bro.
You are a professional. Yes, you are Darby Brown. I see it in you all the time. I'm like, that's Darby Brown right there. Anyway,
Man,
Pete.
I miss Darby. She's the best.
Pete, thanks so much. It's another trader. She goes to Austin. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. They just end up going to SEC and Big Ten places. Darby there, Nicole Sheeran, former friend of the show, to Ohio State. They just forget about us. Pete, but thank you so much for joining, and looking forward to hearing you on the call tomorrow.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate. I love the Locked On Nation. So, and I appreciate, dude. Locked On Baylor. It gets
Pete
me ready.
Terrific supporter of the Locked On Podcast Network as well. You can catch a lot of that on the Pete Sousa Show as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to leave your score predictions in the comment section below. Why Baylor is going to win, let me know in the comment section below. And what other games you're watching this week. Then be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for making this the #1 Baylor football show on YouTube. And we will see you in the post game on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.